If you subscribe, I promise to teach you how to color grade your videos in the next few minutes. Let's get right to it.
Just here to teach you something.
So I have 3 clips over here. I got these clips from Pexel. It is preferred that you have your clips shot in some raw format with high bit depth that gives you more control over your colors. But then even your mobile videos would do. Just make sure not to have any color effects on. We are in DaVinci Resolve and we will jump to the color panel. This is where all the color settings are. Okay, so for the first clip we have some glitter to hands and a pink background. I chose this clip because it has faded colors and faded colors just work good in bringing out the deeper tones. So you have a lot of modes. You have the curves which handle the whole frame. You have this color warper. Again, you can warp the colors of the whole frame. You have a masking tool which is the color eyedropper. You have custom masks. You have masks tracking. You have magic mask which works on humans. It automatically masks the person and tracks it through the whole video. Then you have some blur settings which I never really use. You have some keyers and the rest I don't even know. You probably won't even need them. You also have a node system where you can add nodes and separate different effects into separate layers. Basically layers, but in a node based system. And then there are your primary adjustments. Once you have your masks, you can change all the settings from here. The color boost is just algorithmic color boost for the video. You have your shadows, highlight, saturation, hue, luminance mix. Then there's temperature, tint, contrast, pivot of the contrast, and mids and details. Not pivot of the contrast, but like which part of the gradient you want to affect. Then there is also some color matchings. The default selection. Also, if your video is HDR settings. Then RGB mixers, and finally some motion effects, which nobody really uses. We just need to focus on the colors. Then you have your scopes, which shows the RGB value of the current frame. Okay, let's go to this dropper tool, which is called the qualifier in Resolve, and select this pink. Now if you zoom in here, you hold Alt and your mouse scroll to zoom into the node panel. You can see that you have a selection made. Add node, corrector, connect this. Now you have your original video too. Also, if you want to view your mask in the video, you add an alpha output. Once you click alpha output, you will see this blue output pop up here. And if you connect the blue node from the connector, you can see the mask working. Okay, now I select this node and change my selection to get something cleaner. The width settings change how wide the color selection is. You also have your center, which moves the selection left and right. A softness value, it changes the softness in case you have those harsh edges coming up. And symmetry, which like skews the selection towards one side. Okay, now you have this mask over here. I'm connecting this masked layer after this corrector layer, and I don't really need the alpha out. Now we have our hands and our background mask. Okay, so for the background, I will probably amp up the saturation a bit. Let's move it towards the aqua. I want some like really saturated video, which like pops right to the eye. Okay, so what the lift does is the lift lifts up the shadows and pushes down the contrast, or the other way around. The gamma is basically known to all you people if you ever tried. The gain is again the brightness settings. The offset is, it is basically playing with the light here. Then you have your contrast. Okay, now we have this blue background on the masked layer. The original is still preserved. If we like connect that to the output, these are the output nodes, you can see the original video. Now we can just adjust the original layer and it will simply affect the hands because that is on the layer underneath, and you have no mask tracking to do because it is based on color selections, which is very amazing. You can zoom into your video by just scrolling up on your mouse and then clicking the middle mouse button to pan around. You see how these edges have a little roughness to them? You can clear that up by adjusting these settings on your qualifier. Make sure to like be up close when you're doing this. Maybe a little bit of denoise, and then we clean the whites up to push down the edges. That is a lot better. I mean, you don't really need to do it if it's for some of your personal projects, but then when you're working professionally, these things matter. I don't work professionally. Okay, I'll add another node here, a corrector node, and plug in the original video which I just created to the masked layer, and then we add a layer mixer. The layer mixer takes two input nodes and gives out one. We plug the video we want on the bottom node. I'll just arrange this. It's just becoming a mess. It becomes a mess really quick. And the video we want on the top. And when we plug it in, this should be on the top. This should be on the bottom. Yeah, and when we plug it in, we have the video with the background changed, not being affected on the color part, and the original video. I moved the gain up a bit, so that caused the nice orangish tones on the teal. Let's just move the gamma towards the yellows a bit. Give it a little, you try to move the slider around, then you can like see what's really happening over here. You mostly get to the color you want, unless you have raw footage from like some Blackmagic camera, then you like need to make some major tweaks and you will be just fine. For the first video, we are gonna play it back and see how the results turned out. That actually looks decent. Moving on to the next video. We add a node, corrector, plug the input in, plug it to the output. Okay, now we have our initial input. Selector, I'm selecting this gray over here. Zoom into the corrector. Add an alpha output to see what you are doing. Here is the alpha output. Now we can see the lamp clearly. I'm gonna increase the saturation selections. After you make your selection, just like tweak around your luminance and saturation selections. That like gets a lot of heavy lifting out of the way. Oh, that's a big selection for this. Anyway. Now you have your mask. Again, middle mouse button to pan around. Maybe some denoising. Adjust the white and black ratios together so you have a cleaner mask. Anyway, now that we have that, we add a corrector node. Put the original input in there. Push the original input into the mask. And delete the mask node. Alpha output. We delete the alpha output. Now again, we can make some nice tweaks. I'm trying to bring out the colors instead of like muting them. You can go either way, or in a scene you can mute some colors while getting some really high vibrances on others to put some focus and emphasis on one subject. But then you get the idea, right? Better. Just make sure you don't have this color picker clicking everywhere, or you're gonna get yourself into trouble. Oh, that looks lovely. Again, let's just see the original video. You see how it like looks very one? And now let's look at this. Pops out a lot more. Now we have this. I'm gonna add a corrector node. Add the original video as the input here. Then add another corrector node. Or maybe just input this from here into here. That works too. The previous corrector node that we created. And we are going to select these woods. Again, plugging in the alpha to the alpha. That's a terrible selection. Let's see what we can do about this. Maybe bring down the saturation. See, it doesn't need to be perfect, but the closer you get it with these sliders, the easier of a time you have later on. Okay, since we are not doing a perfect job, that's good enough. Now we add some blur to it. Clean some blacks, clean some whites, denoise it a bit, play with the in-out ratio, push it a little in, again reduce the blacks. That is a give or take good selection, I would say. Okay. Now we have these beams. Delete the alpha out, add a parallel mixer, connect the lamp on the lamp, connect this wood selection on that lower node, and plug the final output with the out. Let's start the tweaking. Fun part. Ta-da! Very proud of myself. Anyway, this is not what we want to do. Probably gonna push. See, I can't really do major tweaks because in this area I can manually mask this part out and then combine it again. I don't know, I feel like doing that because I have to then track, and that's annoyance. And this is just a video for you content creators who want to make some simple tweaks to their videos, and I want you to experiment around more rather than me feeding you everything. That's just an excuse. We'll try to keep the focus on the lamp here. That is good enough. We see a little of the lamp's reflection in the video. Again, if we plug in the original, this is what the original looks like, and this is what the graded video looks like. Now comes the sofa. For the sofa, since the colors are very close, I'll probably use mask. For the mask, you go to this circular mask that's made. You click on the pen tool and let me just add another corrector node. You don't want to mix up the nodes together. Here we have a third corrector node, holding Alt, scrolling down to reduce the size, arranging the nodes. Okay, we have the original video again. I clicked on a new polygon mask, and now I'm just gonna polygonify this. That's the center point for the selection, and then make the selection around the central point. Control Z, lot of Control Z's. I made the selection on the original input layer, which would have messed up all the inputs. Make sure on the right node, adjust the alpha mask to be on the output. Why is that affecting this other clip here? No idea. The pen is not working. I'm just gonna make a polygon selection. And now you see the mask moving as you move your pointer. Okay. Just laying out the mask, real nice. Chop chop. And this works beautifully. Amazing. We have a selection. Okay, to mix these nodes, you have two of these already inputting to a mixer node, and you have this third node. Add a corrector, because one mixer cannot directly plug into another mixer for some reason. You add a corrector and then add a layer mixer. Oh, you add a parallel mixer. And then you connect the outputting connector to the mixer, and then that goes to the final output. Delete your alpha. And now you have a selection for the sofa along with new color grids. That's created. And now start tweaking. See, I told you it's light green. Offset it towards whatever color you need. I have a sofa of this color, so I'm going towards that. Perfect. That looks super nice. Okay, I have a selection for this, I have a selection for this, and I have a selection for this. So ideally I should be able to tweak the wall without making any new selection, right? We add a node, we add a corrector, zooming out, holding Alt and scrolling down, making a selection for everything, moving it towards the side. Adding another parallel mixer, connecting it to the mixer, putting it into the output. And now we take the original input. This got very complicated very fast, huh? And then we put it on the lower side. Okay, so all these nodes are affecting all the individual elements, while this node will sit below them and affect the wall. We don't need to make any selections here, we just push up the saturation and we can see the wall doing its thing. Pushing down the shadows a bit, giving it a little blue lift. You see how the shadows got skewed to the bluer side? Maybe a little gamma, a little orange on the gain, trying to get a nice ambience going on. And we offset it towards the agua. You see what offset does? But you tweak it like very minorly, very minorly. Yeah. Also, you can do all of these things using curves. You can select any of the curves, RGB, red for red channels. You see how that's like taking out the reds depending on the position. Very fine tweaks actually do the trick. G, maybe you can like find the spot where the sofa lies and then just put the G's up. Get it, G's up. Well, then I'm not gonna do these tweaks. You can like play around. This shouldn't be too hard. Anyway, that is how you make a complex node system in a scene with a lot of objects. I'm just gonna show you the original input once. This is the original. This is the graded one. I think that turned out pretty decent. You can also add node labels by right clicking a node, and I'm just gonna name it original. This is overall, and similarly for the others. Okay, for the third video we will just do some simple color warping, and this is probably the most simplest way to grade a video. It just selects pre-existing colors and moves them towards new defined scopes. You see how the skin was in this brownish areas, and if we like move it to the reds, it's skewing it towards the red, and you can see the color range over here already. You have some tools over here. You can draw a selection. You see when you like move this selection cursor over here, you can see what color we are exactly moving towards. Now moving the centroid to some area of blue. You see how all the shadows automatically get adjusted because the shadows are just a reflection of the color that's on the back. You see, just a few click movements and we have such a nice. We can also increase the fall off. We can decrease the fall off. You know, the fall off increase is just selecting more nodes. So now that when we move this part, it's moving a more drastic part. The last one was nice. You can reduce the fall off. You can swap the invert. Like now it's selecting all the nodes that it's just this scope doing all the things. You can select, you can pinning something just ensures it won't move from that area. There. Well, that's not. Now select or pin ring. Then there's deepen all, and then there's reset. Also, you have your range slider, which limits you to one specific portion of the color wheel and automatically makes a selection for you. It is basically making selections for you on the node system. Easy peasy. So these are 3 ways you can edit 3 clips or any amount of clips, but just different methodologies. This is without the grid. This is with the grid. Again, if I could teach you something, make sure to subscribe if you want, and please hit a like. That really helps. See ya.